Hello, welcome to
There we
the
go.
Daves of our lives. I am Dave with my co-host, Dave.
I'm Dave.
To differentiate, we've taken our first initial from our last names and centralized them because why not?
Quite.
So I'm here with Dave. Oh,
Thank you for that introduction, Dave.
and one day when we have a third Dave,
Figure out how to centralize that.
we'll figure out how to
I don't know.
We could centralize any letter.
Any?
The only one I think that we might not be able to is ampersand.
That's not a
It used to be. Fact check me on that.
we said we weren't fact checking.
We said we're not fact checking live.
No
so
live
we need a
fact-checking.
fact checking recap from last
Oh
week.
yeah, I think we should do that. I'm gonna.
You're gonna
face you a
reposition.
little bit more.
Oh, by the way, before we start fact checking, I just want you to know I do own other shirts. I do not own multiple
Fact check
copies.
that, please.
We'll do a live session and go
we
see
need
my
to do
closet.
a fact check of Dave's other
I do
shirts.
own other shirts. I don't own multiple copies of this one salamander shirt.
Salamander, huh?
I think it's salamander.
Not salmon.
Axolotl. It's salmon.
Axolotl. It's okay.
Salamander? Salmon? No, I think salmon. Salmon. That sounds
Salmon.
better.
It's some aquatic color.
It is definitely a fish of aquatic, right?
Yes.
So I just want you to know it's clean. It just happened to line up with today's.
For those of you that are on audio only, Dave is wearing the same shirt that he wore last
and
week.
no pants.
We can see.
And I'm wearing pants too. I just want you guys to know that I do have other clothes. We're not
Disclaimer:
that poor.
we do this podcast fully clothed
For now.
for now. That's join our Patreon for that exclusive content.
We can't be bought. Anyway, yeah. So
Patreon,
let's
OnlyFans.
fact check. Let's talk about the facts.
Let's talk about the facts. What were some of the facts that were
Okay, I
brought up?
remember there were 3 of them.
Okay?
Okay.
I did get feedback on one.
One of them was powdered sugar.
Powdered sugar. Yeah.
I looked it up.
Yeah. So who was right? Dave or Dave?
Dave, which one was right? Dave or Dave? Dave was right.
Dave was
Dave
right.
O
This
was
Dave
right.
was right. Yeah. One for Dave O.
There is another
Cornstarch,
ingredient that is used to help with the flow of the powder, which is what I thought it might have been if there was one.
Yeah.
We do stuff like that in my business that I work for.
Okay.
So I'm familiar with like flow agents, things that they're not major ingredients, but you want to add them
folks,
in to
this
help.
is what you get for being friends with an engineer. Flow agents. I don't even know what that means.
Agents of flow.
Sure. I
This is what you
extrapolated
get
that
for
much,
being
but
friends. Quick side note: we're playing a board game, and 3 of us out of 4 of us are engineers, and for the most part, we're just like winning every week. And somebody said something. I was like, dude, what do you expect? Like 3 out of 4 of us are engineers. You know that we're sitting here thinking, how do I maximize? How do I get like the most gold? Like we are just gonna stomp this game in the ground. So that's what you get with engineers.
that is exactly what you get with
We
engineers.
might have made a spreadsheet for the game. I'm
No,
not
you did
gonna-
not.
neither
Did you?
I.
There's a spreadsheet for the game.
Not. I haven't made one yet.
Who made it?
If anybody made a spreadsheet, I'm going to go with Wes. Wes, if you
Okay.
haven't made a spreadsheet,
Yeah.
make a spreadsheet.
I could see that.
Okay, so powdered sugar.
Powdered sugar.
What else did you read about it?
I didn't read about powdered sugar. That
'Cause
was
you
it.
knew who was right.
I knew that one was right.
Okay.
The one I didn't know was
There's
the
2
one I
more.
questioned you on heavily was Jerry Springer.
Judge Jerry.
Judge Jerry, from what I was told, it was very staged.
Oh, yeah.
Like it was fully staged. Yeah. But it was a real thing. It did happen. So we're
Is
both
this like
right.
an asterisk? Are you trying to give me an asterisk because it's fully staged? Like all of TV?
It was a staged.
Unlike this
Just
podcast.
kidding. This podcast is not staged.
So what I thought was interesting is that I can't remember the guy's name. I think his name is Ray, and he does the until. You know what I'm talking
Like the-
about? He does
the
the short
announcer?
stories about
don't-
people.
I don't know.
I sent you a short.
You did
about
send
this,
me
but it
this,
wasn't that
yeah.
guy. It was somebody else.
It was somebody else that was
Somebody
talked
else,
about
yeah.
Jerry Springer's whole history of
yeah, but
politics.
his name is
and-
Gerald.
Gerald, yes.
Yeah,
so it
and
tells
so
the
it had
story
that-
of Gerald.
It had that twist at the end.
Yeah.
That it was like, oh yeah, he started this show. It wasn't really like super popular until they
And
decided
then-
to like take it to the
And then
next
they made
level.
it very, very dramatic, and then it started to get
Yeah.
ratings. Yeah, so that was interesting about Jerry Springer, but
Judge Spring.
I will
Springer.
say this is a win for Dave.
This is a win for Dave Kind.
This is a win.
It's
for
a
Dave
small
Kind.
step,
Yes,
but a great leap.
giant leap
A giant leap for
Dave
Kind.
because Dave won that one. What was the third one that we needed?
The
to fact
third
check?
one,
I can't remember.
was it, or did we talk about this afterwards? Inspector Gadget. I believe we talked about it this time.
You
because
did mention it. It was mentioned on the last episode.
Gotcha.
Yes, that's what brought it up. You said Inspector Gadget and the pilot had a mustache.
Correct.
Fact checked that. Turns out that's 2 for Dave. Actually, it's 3 for Dave.
3 for Dave.
But 2 for Dave. 1 for Dave O. So, if any of you were wondering which of those facts were true, all of them were
There's
true.
2 truths and a lie from me, and 1 truth and 2 lies from me.
What do you have for this week? What's a fun fact that needs to be fact checked?
Oh my gosh.
Other than your wardrobe.
Other than my wardrobe. Okay, so this is a fun fact. I might have already told it to you, but with the recent presidential election,
Sure.
and there was an assassination attempt
Uh-huh.
on President Trump's life
Twice. Yep.
The first one, much more serious. The second one, they caught the guy well before like any bullets fired, right? And so I was listening to a podcast, and who do you think? And I might, since I already might have talked to you about this outside of this, you might know the answer. In U.S. history, who was the first presidential candidate assassinated?
First assassinated?
Yeah. Presidential candidate assassinated in U.S. history. Yeah, not president.
Not a president.
Not a former president, but somebody running for president that was assassinated.
You did tell me this, but I can't, for the life of me, I can't remember.
Okay. Joseph Smith Jr.
Joseph Smith Jr. was the first presidential candidate because he did run for president.
So so
Was he
this
assassinated the
delves
same
into the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, aka the Mormons, Latter-day Saints, LDS history.
So was he killed the same year he was running for president?
He was actively running for president.
So he was campaigning at the time.
He was campaigning. Sidney Rigdon was in a different state because you had there were some legal reasons for it, and he was running as his vice president.
Right. Yeah.
And as the history, the people that study this, they believe that his murder was more politically motivated than religious.
Than it was religiously?
And the reason why is because at this time, you could bring an immigrant into the United States, and within 6 months, they could vote in a presidential election.
Okay.
And so they have missionaries.
So they had people coming from
Yeah.
England, from all over the world.
All these people coming in.
That would have for sure voted for Joseph Smith.
Correct, because of the religious affiliation. They're like, oh, hey, yeah, you're the prophet, you're the leader. You want us to vote for you? Sure. Now, the reason he was running was because the things that happened in Missouri, they felt like they'd been wronged. He had gone to the president. He had written the president. President's like, I can't do anything to help you. So he wrote every single presidential candidate saying, what are you going to do for me and my people?
And they said nothing.
And most of them said either they didn't respond or they just said nothing.
There's nothing.
So he decided to run. And what was interesting about that is the political candidates or the analysts at the time did not believe that he would have a serious chance of winning that election. He would be like a Ross Perot from the 1994, where he would draw significantly from one party to the point that it would be detrimental. And so they believed that he would draw and he would mess the elections up.
Okay.
And that would be a problem.
Yeah.
What they were more concerned about is they legitimately thought he could win the next election.
So, and again, not fact checking live.
Yeah, no fact checking live.
So where do you get this information? Like, is this available on the church's
It is
website?
available. It is online. Like, none of this stuff is like super hard to find. And if you want me to dig into it more in like site sources, I can. I just study and read a lot of stuff.
Send me some links. I can attach them to
the
comments
other thing
or the
is
description.
his campaign. He wanted two things. I mean, he wanted many things, but this was two things I thought were interesting. The first one, which is now more of a discussion than ever, is he suggested, and at this time, mind you, that Texas is its own country.
Right. It's not part of the U.S. at the time.
Not part of the U.S. yet. It's
Right.
its own country. By the way, I was born in Texas. It's the best country in the United States because it's the only country in the United States.
Fact check that one.
Fact check my birth. I was conceived there too.
The country in the United States.
It is the only country in the United
only
States.
country in the United
There's
States.
4 commonwealths. The rest of them are states.
Fair enough.
Anyway,
By
so
the way, this is not a political podcast,
this is not a political. We'll talk about political things,
but it's part of our life, so it's gonna come
we're
up.
just talking about random stuff, right? Well, this is what the podcast is.
Yeah, sidebar conversations.
Yeah,
That's
this
it.
is just me and Dave getting together. We're tired. We've had a long day of work. and
Yeah, yeah.
just shooting the breeze.
Okay, so 2 things, Joseph Smith.
So one, he thought that we should annex Mexico and Canada and bring them into the United States, not in a military form, but in a hey, come and be part of the Union.
Mexico and Canada.
Mexico and Canada.
Okay.
Okay, now,
All right.
based off of my risk strategy, I think this is a great idea. I don't know if there's any good benefit to it
And if
beyond
you've
that.
ever played a Risk,
So yeah, the North America
annex
strategy.
Canada and Mexico as part of your strategy.
Oh yeah, forget about Australia.
This is where
if
President
you get
Trump,
North America,
This is where
you
President
game.
Trump got his idea from. Was from Dave,
Yeah, from me from Risk.
and Dave got it from Joseph Smith.
Dave got it from Joseph. The other thing is that he wanted to get rid of slavery,
Yes.
and
Yep.
he had a 6-year plan that would pay out the slave owners. So there was a transition period, but they've been talking a lot about this.
So it wasn't just
people in the. It wasn't just get
free
rid of them.
them, abolish slavery.
It was get rid of slavery.
It was
pay the
pay
slave,
the owners,
pay the owners for their quote unquote property, right?
Okay.
And say, hey, here's the money, but you no longer can have the slaves. And they also had, which I believe the government did institute this, where there is a country in Africa where people who were slaves could go back.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know that. That's one thing that we would need to fact check.
I want to fact check it, but there is a place, I can't remember the name of it.
An African nation.
It was like an African nation or something that they arranged something because some of them were under the belief that once people were freed, you might be like, well, this place sucks.
They'd
Let's go back home
to Africa.
But it's a really naive thing to do because
Sure.
Africa is obviously very diverse. There's lots of tribes involved. Some of these people had been here for many, many generations.
So they probably wouldn't even know how to integrate into that culture
Yeah.
at that time.
It'd be like me returning to Mexico, which is where Texas came from. I would not know what
you
to
wouldn't
do.
know how to integrate into Mexico.
Be like,
Give it a shot,
aprendiable
dude.
español en el banco.
Look, there are plenty of resorts. You can survive in a resort.
Do I look like I
All-inclusive.
tan? I can't be in the sun that much.
Take some sunscreen.
Anyway, so that is the interesting not fact check. You can fact check me on it if you want to.
Yeah.
An interesting tidbit that I thought was the first assassinated political candidate
assassinated political
in U.S. history was Joseph Smith Jr. And that act changed the West.
Yeah.
With the Mormon pioneer migration.
Oh, yeah.
I do not believe the West would be what it is where we live. It would not be developed in any way, shape, or form nearly as much without
Or
a
as
concentrated
rapidly. Yeah.
reason for people coming to the area.
Or as rapidly. I think that, yeah.
I mean, there'd be people here.
It would take a lot. I think it would be a lot slower. Like, because, then them coming to Salt Lake Valley, they had to develop infrastructure.
Yeah.
And yeah, so.
Well, and who's like, hey, let's stop here. That water
Brigham
tastes
Young.
disgusting.
Brigham Young. This is the place.
This is the one place on earth that people will leave us alone. The Mormon pioneers were actually they were trying to figure out where they wanted to go after the martyr, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And they're in a meeting, and they're seriously discussing going to Texas.
Oh,
There was conversations about this.
sure. Why not?
Somebody knocked on the door and said, "Time out. Texas joined the Union. This is out
We have
because
to.
they wanted to be gone."
They had to be out of the United States.
By the time they get to the Salt Lake Valley, the U.S.-Mexican War,
Yeah. So we're talking 18.
it's underway.
What year was that?
They enter
18
they enter into the valley like I believe it's still Mexico, but
Yeah.
not for much longer.
Right.
And so it's like, just joking, you're still in the United States because we started a war while you were walking across the plains. And then when they came out, and the U.S. Army built a fort, which is on where the University of Utah grounds are.
Douglas.
Fort Douglas.
Yeah.
It is the only fort in U.S. history that faced the population.
The local population.
It faced the city.
Yeah.
It didn't face away from the city like, hey, we need to be paying attention for anything that's going to come hurt us.
Right.
They were specifically there to watch what these guys were doing. Because not only like, hey, look, we didn't really like you and we kind of like drove you out and we killed your leader, but now what are you up to?
We're suspecting
Very suspicious.
uprising.
Well, they had their own alphabet. There was reasons why.
Yeah, sure.
You have your own
Sure.
secret alphabet. They're
On
gonna be on to you.
currency at some point.
Your own currency. You have a couple extra wives.
Yeah.
Like, what is going on
What's
here?
happening?
But yeah, that's the interesting
That is
side
interesting.
history
Dave-
for today.
Or do you study history quite a bit?
I do. I read a lot.
Okay.
Like I listen to a podcast just like some guy's journal about the Crusades.
Oh.
And it was literally excerpts from the Crusades. It's like 1180 or something.
What? And
And
some guy just podcasts about it? They
Some
just
guy
read the
just like
journals?
puts it on YouTube, just like this.
Man.
But I woke up in the middle of the night. My brain's like, "Woo, hey, it's party!" I'm like, "Dude, it's 3 a.m," and put an ear pod in. I'm like, "This is boring." Like, I love
Maybe this
history
will
stuff.
put me to
I
sleep.
listened to the whole. I just sat there and didn't go to sleep for another
Dude,
hour
I
listening
don't know.
to some journal about this guy talking about how he went on a crusade.
Dude,
And he fought with the king and all the politics, and
What?
it was
He
crazy.
kept that detailed of a journal?
Yeah,
of
you
his
think about it and
experience.
you're like, man, this is back in the day. These guys are cavemen. They're just rubbing sticks.
This is our version of a journal.
Yeah, this is our journal.
This is our
Right,
journal.
right. I'm like, no, I'm not writing. And
But it's easy, and we can talk about details, and we can share
yeah,
stories.
I mean, the guy talked freely about lots of things. He even mentioned things like, hey, the wine that he gave to his servants, he watered down,
Oh, really?
right? Because to make
make it last longer?
stretch farther,
Yeah.
right? And they talk about that, like bringing out the best wine at the end in the Bible
Yeah.
stories, like
Yep.
because you would bring out the watered down wine, and you're going to trick people.
Right.
So anyway, he's like, you guys are my servants. You're not going to get that good of wine. But at his table with like his peers, he would bring the wine at full concentration and the water, and they could choose how much to water it down.
Oh. But they had to water it down?
They didn't have to.
They could choose whether to water it down or not.
Yeah, because
And how
maybe they
much.
didn't want to be as intoxicated. Maybe they wanted
Sure.
more,
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah. Some of them want it stronger, not so strong. How much control do you want over yourself and your harlots?
Have it your way.
wine your way.
R1.
Man.
Sauce your
R1
booty. Have it your way.
Patent pending.
Patent pending.
We Man, these are some quality sidebar conversations. I think that's very. I mean, you take an old journal and you read about it on a podcast. Like, talk about a niche that
The
someone
fact
found.
that this exists.
I don't know how you stayed awake for that, man.
It was
It's-
riveting, Dave.
Sure, I'm
riveting.
sure. But I mean, I've listened to what I consider riveting podcasts in bed, and I am done.
Usually, I mean, look, if it's like midnight, I'm getting ready to go to bed, I'm tired, I could put something in if I just want to like have noise. 10 minutes in, I'm just snoring, whatever.
Yeah.
But if I wake up like after like 4 hours of sleep, my body's like, hey, let's do stuff. I'm like, no, this is a horrible idea. Like, I need to go back to bed. So I'll just, sometimes I even type like in YouTube, boring, like historical stuff.
No, you,
And it's like 2 hours long. And then I'll still sit there and be
and
like,
you
"That's
won't
really
fall asleep.
interesting."
You'll still you'll be interested in it.
I try, man.
Oh, okay.
I have problems.
We're gonna take a quick break here. I got to do some technical stuff. We'll be right back
I'm not going to move.
after a word from
Freeze.
our sponsor, R1 Sauce for your booty. Okay, we're not gonna stop the recording, but
What's wrong?
I need to make sure that this screen doesn't.
Oh, because the screensaver kicked on and it timed out last time.
Yeah.
Sorry, if there's anything I'm talking about that makes you feel uncomfortable, you can like, I don't know, you cut it out, Dave.
I don't cut anything out. That's not how I do things, Dave.
Interesting fact, Dave. You read a lot. You're a nerd. Yep.
Let's see. Display options. Start screensaver. Never. When.
Never ever have I. We could play that game online.
Never
have I ever. That game.
Correct password after screensaver.
You have a password for your lock screen?
I changed certain settings, apparently. Okay.
The fact that you wiggled it should give it another hour, right?
Yeah. Turn display off on battery when inactive. Turn display off on power adapter when inactive. Never. That's what we want. Okay. And then this one is not going to stay on.
No, that one's cool. Oh, no, I like that timer.
I know. It's still going.
Oh, that one will also go to sleep,
Yeah.
and that's what you're doing also.
Box after 15 minutes.
I'll just sing for us
official.
right now.
I'll just look official with an iPad.
I was born.
Okay, what are we going to talk about now, Dave?
Oh, well, did you have an interesting fact?
I have no interesting facts.
You come to me for the interesting
I
facts?
come to you for the interesting
What about
facts.
boring facts?
Those two.
Okay.
I have no interesting nor boring facts. Here's one thing I did read. The previous administration signed into law the Social Security Fairness Act,
Okay.
which I think has some interesting implications on.
Will we ever get to retire?
Will we ever get to retire?
Only if this podcast.
So
takes
Social Security
off.
is never. Yeah, if this takes off, well, this is our retirement plan. Find us on Patreon when we actually do
We'll
that.
have a I think our whole generation will have a GoFundMe at 65.
So here's
See if
the
people
thing,
take
right?
pity on us.
So the Social Security Fairness Act, it got rid of two things that were put in place in the 1980s. One was the government pension offset, which decreased the spouse survival benefits of anyone that was on a pension. So say you were on a pension, you die, your spouse gets your pension. And so
therefore the government doesn't need to give as much in Social Security because you have a pension coming in.
Right.
So
and if
it's
you
like
were on
penalizing
a pension,
you.
essentially, yeah. Yeah, so
It's similar
you're
to
not
like,
drawing from Social Security because you already have government pension. The
Yeah.
other was
So similar to that is like unemployment.
similar.
So like unemployment, it's like I was making $100,000 a year, and now unemployment's like 40,000.
Yeah.
So if I go get a job making 60, which I'm severely underemployed at this point, right?
Yep.
Can I keep my unemployment benefits while I'm still looking for a better job? At least I'm doing something with my time. The answer is no.
Right.
They penalize you for it.
Yep.
So that you get off of it as quickly as possible. But sometimes it's hard to find a job.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why would you do that? Wouldn't you be like, oh, hey, good job, you're working, and we'll supplement your income until this date, which is ending no matter what.
Right. Right.
So sometimes they do things. I don't understand everything behind it.
Sure. There are a lot of moving parts.
So they got rid of it.
They got rid of those.
Okay.
So those that are on a pension, they should see an increase in their Social Security benefits.
Okay.
Right. However, it increases the federal deficit by 196 billion, which
We don't have the money.
current deficit, it's not going to impact it much, right?
Okay.
But it accelerates the insolvency of the Social Security program by 6 months. So instead of
What is the current insolvency?
before this was signed into law, it was 2034. So it accelerates it to 2033.
So I often say to myself, do I do things now because I love current Dave? Or do I make decisions now because I love future Dave?
Sure. And how often does current Dave
hates current Dave?
Future Dave hates current Dave. Okay.
Not all the time, but there's a lot of things that current Dave who was once future Dave,
Yeah.
hates past Dave 4.
Yes.
So the question is, will we care about this in 2034?
I think so.
This is what I propose. I've thought a lot about this.
Okay. So you have a solution to the
I have
Social Security
lots of bad
insolvency.
solutions.
So this is not a great solution. This is just a solution.
I have a solution.
All right. Let's hear
I
it.
don't know what to do to get out of the Social Security thing that we have right now. Whatever we do, I think there needs to be some sort of transition so it's not shocking. But I
Yeah.
don't believe that it makes sense.
Oh, so here's the thing. It doesn't just go away in 2034. If nothing happens, right? The insolvency means that they decrease the benefit. So it's still there. You just
It's
don't
still
get as
there.
much.
They're just saying. So my understanding of the reason we have Social Security, and you may know more about this than me, is that people didn't save for retirement or any sort of mishaps in their life. And so they became burdens to society and just, they just spent all their money. And this was bad. And so the government's like, hey, give us 7.5%. Your employer throws in 7.5%. It's 15%. And then in exchange for this, you have some sort of protections.
Sure. Yeah.
Is that
it wasn't
close?
Yeah, it was just supposed to be some kind of supplemental income, right? It was never intended to be a full retirement plan.
So never intended to be full retirement, but it was intended to be some sort of supplement, right?
Yeah.
And it's not just for retirement. Your Social Security comes into play if you're like disabled.
So
also.
disability, yeah.
Okay. I'm entirely okay with the thought that people should have something in place like this.
Okay.
Okay? I'm okay that the government has some sort of mechanisms in place. I don't want them in charge of the money.
Okay, so your solution is to remove the government from being in charge of abolish the Social Security Administration and let somebody else take over?
So I look at this and I go, COVID opened my eyes to a lot of things.
Okay.
Okay. You have the ants and you have the grasshoppers.
Yeah.
You know the story.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay.
If you don't know the story, go watch A Bug's Life.
Bug's Life. That will solve
Pretty
that
much,
will, that will explain
pretty much
most.
the story of the ants and the grasshoppers.
And then watch ants and go, what the crap happened? While they're anatomically more correct, the story is just better on Bug's Life.
Yes.
But I look at it and I'm like, okay, so there's a ton of people that are living paycheck to paycheck. That tremendous amount of stress living that lifestyle, right?
Yeah.
That have no safety net at all.
Yeah.
And the government's taking 7.5% from every single one of their paychecks plus their employer. So 15% of their paychecks going to them. And the only time you're going to get to access that is if you're like unable to work or old and not able to work. And they're mismanaging my money in a way that it's not there later. I would say, look, you want to take 10% out of every paycheck, 5%, whatever number you want to say.
Sure.
You don't get to manage it. It goes into some fund and more like a 401k or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think people should be able to draw on it, which you can do with 401ks. Like, hey, I want to do a down payment for a house or whatever.
Sure. Yeah, there's exceptions.
To a certain point.
Yeah.
Once you hit a certain number, I don't think you should have to contribute anymore. You get like 100,000, they're like, hey, congratulations. You have a nest egg. You're no longer somebody who's going to, in a time of need, you can now help your neighbor instead of be a burden to your neighbor, which is,
Okay.
I mean, the only time the government's stepping in and doing stuff, Dave, is because we as a society have failed in doing it ourselves, and they need a more organized effort.
Or someone thinks it needs to be more organized.
Yeah. They're stepping in because people are like, wow, that really sucked.
Yeah.
So-and-so got hurt and they can't take care of their farm anymore, right? So the neighbors
Sure.
around there don't come in and take care of it like
Right.
government has to help out. And so we all pull together. But the concept that I'm giving my money to them and they're mismanaging
like
it to
that.
the point that it's going to be insolvent
Yeah. You don't
and
like
it's
that.
not there,
Right.
it feels like a Ponzi scheme, which is illegal
Indeed.
unless you're the government.
A lot of things are illegal unless you're the government.
Because they make the laws.
They make
Therefore,
the laws
that's not
that
illegal.
don't apply to them. Rules for me, not for thee. Rules for thee, not for me.
Yeah, there's a phrase for that. I think it's a
I think
parenting
rules for me, not for rules
Not
for
for-
thee,
one.
not for me.
And this is what I tell my kids. It's true because it rhymes. So most of my
Wait,
parenting,
what's another example of something that's true because it rhymes?
I can't remember.
You're gonna have to come, I'm gonna have to come up with some rhymes.
I'll
We're gonna have to have
say
a section
something,
where we rhyme.
and it rhymes, and I go, and you know that's the truth because it rhymes. It's very catchy, so why wouldn't that be the case? So I don't know enough about the economics and stuff and things like that. Just conceptually, I'm like, you know what? There's a great benefit to have people have some money. I think it helps them have some financial security. I think people will take risks. They'll do small businesses. They'll do these things. You don't want your society living paycheck to paycheck. But it should be more their money and less of this. The money's coming in, and then it's like.
I mean, I get where you're coming from. Like, put Dave's money in Dave's Social Security account, not Dave's money in this big fund that everyone gets to draw from.
Or Dave gets to put the money in, like Dave has to put the money into some sanctioned Roth IRA or whatever,
Sure.
401k.
Yeah.
And
I could
that
see that
self-reports whenever every year that I'm maintaining the right, I'm using the money for the right. I don't know all the logistics, and there's pros and cons to however you want to control it. And I know they've talked about like the privatization of Social Security.
Sure. And I think the current administration would be more likely to push for something like that.
I think it is more of a conservative agenda.
Yeah.
The whole purpose of our government, the way I understand it, is minority rights, majority rules.
Right.
And so some of the solutions that I think about probably apply to the majority, but I'm not thinking about the exceptions.
Right.
Of how, because I'm not in that spot. And so it might sound like, oh, that's a great idea. It's very simple, whatever. It's more complex. I admit that. I understand it.
No, it's simple. We've made it more complex.
Engineers.
Solving problems that don't exist.
Listen, safety labels bred us. I mean, our people
you
should
engineer
have
the
died
solution to the
with
problem that you
toasters. Your GFICs have led to breeding of engineers that probably shouldn't.
GFI. What?
GFIC. Have you ever heard that theory that like all the safety things that we've done have kept people alive that should have died from an evolutionary standpoint, and they have continued to breed? So I'm like, what society generated a bunch of nerds?
Yeah.
And it's like, no, there's people that are going to war and fighting wars, and we get to stay home and like program and play Minecraft.
Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty good.
And normally we would have died and not bred.
Yeah. So is this to the benefit of society or the detriment of society?
Yes.
You tell me.
One of my favorite phrases from my boss was, at some point in every project, you need to take the engineer out back and shoot him and get the job done. Now I'm an engineer. He was an engineer too.
Explain that to me.
Well, he was just saying sometimes engineers can overcomplicate things.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, look, get her done. Like, just, you're going to sit here and like tweak every little thing. It's like, no.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's like a test retest phase, right? Like, you have to test the design at some point. Is that what he's getting at?
No, it's 20% of the effort leads to 80% of the result.
Okay.
80% of the remaining effort is to get your last 20%. And so
Okay.
I think
The 80-20
for a
rule.
lot of like technical people, it's really difficult. You'll have a lot more tendency to have like perfectionisms and OCD tendencies and things like that. And so like I remember I did a
see
model
that-
design with every single nut and bolt in it.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, this feels so good. I had every nut and bolt. We're not mass manufacturing these. I was going to make like 5 of them. But it felt good, Dave. It felt real good. And to the point that my computer's crashing because I have all the threads and everything. I'm like,
gosh.
I feel really good about it. I'm like, nope, that was not value added. That is not value added.
How do you save? How do you add value? Oh, yeah. What's the threshold? So 20% of the effort leads to 80%.
The general rule is 20% of the effort will give you 80% of the results that you're looking
How
for
do
in
you
most
quantify
things.
that in your work, though? Like, how do you know when you've hit that 20% threshold in your efforts? How do you know?
You just got to say to yourself, am I polishing a turd? Am I in turd polishing mode? Is this making me feel better? So like, I will
So
tell
like this
you,
podcast. This makes me feel better.
This is a podcast. This makes me feel better. I will tell you this story. Laura and I were married she wanted some shoe boxes built, very similar to these boxes that are right here. Actually,
the built into the wall.
yeah, built into the wall because kids were just putting crap there. Okay?
Sure.
I'm like, awesome,
Yeah.
sounds great. She said, when can we do it? And I said, well, we're gonna go to Provo in like 2 weeks, drop the kids off at their dad's, and we have the car. We'll pick up some materials then. 2 weeks go by. Have I done any planning?
Not a thing, because you're still designing the thing, aren't you?
No. There's a lot of things that I tell her, yeah, we'll do it, and
Did it ever happen?
So we get down to Provo, and she
It didn't
goes,
happen.
hey, remember these benches? I'm like, oh, son of a. She's like, let's go buy material. I don't have a plan. I'm terrified. I'm horrible at this. There are people that will sit there and like buy garbage. They'll pick things. They'll fell trees and in their head and just build masterpieces.
Yeah,
I'm not that guy.
absolutely right.
I want to make sure, how big is each compartment?
You see
what
our
kind of
entryway?
baskets are going in here? What's the height? What's the cushion? What's the depth? Like, hey, these two walls, they're not exactly identical. So one's going to be bigger than the other. Are you okay with that? Or do you want, I need to figure it all out.
Yeah, yeah.
I have none of this. This is mortifying for me.
How long ago was
Mortifying the
this?
word? Huh?
How long ago was this?
Like 8 years ago.
And did you ever do it?
We went to the store. And
did you ever do
I
it?
just
Did you ever put
picked
it
out.
together?
I picked out materials. I was like, I don't know, 3/4 inch plywood. I got some trim. I got home, and I immediately pulled out my CAD software and just started.
Oh, you just started on the project. You didn't like design it out?
I didn't have any designs. I just grabbed materials, which is very counterintuitive. to me.
Yeah.
Because I'm not comfortable with that. I've never built window benches before. I don't know anything about this. I'm confident I'll get there eventually. So I draw it up in CAD. I'm like, I have all my measurements. I look at it. I talk to her. I get some adjustments. Now I feel comfortable. I go and I build a perfect box. I set it against the wall. The wall is not perfect. The wall, it's an Adobe brick house. It's 140 years old. I think the Adobe brick's like settling, like kind of slumping down.
So how did you adjust for this complication?
I talked to my friend who kind of was like my mentor in remodeling.
Okay.
Kind of gave me that confidence. And he talked to me. He's like, listen, everything's crooked. Nothing is straight.
Not one corner is square.
Not in any house. He's like, don't go measuring nothing, right? So he said, you just put it up there and like scribe the trim to match the wall.
Scribe the trim to match the
But
wall.
keep
Okay.
the non-cut edge, the factory edge, square to the rest of the trim.
Okay.
So looking at the box that you built, everything's square, everything looks nice. Up against the wall, like you're cut to kind of match.
Oh, okay.
And he said, after you do this, you're going to go around and look at other people's remodel jobs, and you're going to see the same thing
Nothing is square.
everywhere.
Did you see our entryway?
I try not to look now. Like you do tile work,
By
you're
the
going to
way,
notice this.
I didn't do that. Sheena did all that.
Is it not square?
Probably not, but she did it.
Okay, so this is the lesson I learned from
And
this.
she did a really. So we did. I don't know if this falls into that, but yeah, the walls were not fully square, and
Nothing is.
yeah. So I think there's like beadboard that we put up, and I remember like, because she wanted it flush with the molding on the top, and so I there's a little gap that we were gonna cover with a baseboard.
Yeah.
So we get it up, and it's like probably a degree, and this is a 4 foot wide beadboard, and so that
Degree over
1
4 feet
degree
matters.
that 1 degree on this end turned into like 1.5 inches on the other end.
Yeah, no, we did the whole wainscot, like board and batten wainscoting,
Yeah.
and it's like the chair rail that went around. That's level. But then I got to like the baseboard, and the floor's not
The
level.
floor's not level.
Right? It's like you put a marble down. This is old. They called it Mormon board. It
where was
was
this?
vertical grain fir. It was a house on Second South here in Brigham. It's one of the
Second
oldest
South.
houses in Brigham.
Second South.
Okay.
Okay.
Anyway, there are two different types of old houses here in Brigham. There are
Right.
old houses built by people that had money,
Yep.
and there are old houses built by poor people.
Yep.
Mine was built by poor people. This is not this beautiful Victorian, like elegant. This is
gonna
like
say,
a
like,
poor person, and they just like patched onto stuff, and Yeah. Anyway, I had this beautiful vertical
Was this
grain.
this is on the
fir-
west side of town?
No, it was second south and
On the east
third
side?
east.
Oh, east of Main Street?
Yeah, it's on the road with the tabernacle, so
Yeah.
it's that main road.
Yep.
It's a white house with a black
Okay.
roof, has a separate garage. You might have driven by it a couple
I'm
times.
sure I know exactly what house you're talking about.
Yeah. No, it was cool. Anyway, we fixed it up and stuff, but yeah, nothing was straight. But this is what I learned from this is my wife will be 100% done with a project well before me. And it will be 80% perfect, 90% perfect. I will be 100% perfect and 0% done. Because I'll have it like on a piece of paper, have it in my head.
Jeez.
And so this is kind of that analysis paralysis type
Yeah.
thing, and it's true because it rhymes.
It's true because it rhymes.
True because it rhymes.
There's
dude,
another
right?
example.
And
Analysis
and
paralysis.
I'm like, I'm not like quite there. Which is like the appliance tower that I showed you.
Yeah.
That she wanted for like a year and a half, and I just didn't really know exactly how to fit it in there.
So sometimes you just gotta like
I
start.
marinate on it. She says it a couple times to me in a loving way. She's not like henpecking.
Hey, when are you gonna do that?
Like, hey, have you ever considered fulfilling my needs and wishes and stop making me feel like you don't care?
Is this you don't approach this with other things in your relationship, do you?
What?
You don't approach other things in your relationship the same way, do you?
Projects?
Yeah, no. Like
Wait, what do you mean by that?
like dates? Because you've done some you talked about an elaborate gift you did for Laura.
Yeah, but
But,
that
like,
was like
How much?
procrastination led to necessity, right?
But how much of your effort does this fall into the 20-80-20 rule? Like 20%,
20%, 80%
effort.
done.
20% effort.
I
80%?
spent on that gift 2-3 hours tops.
So this is good. I'm learning things.
And it is most cherished by her. But here's the thing is that like Laura values not having to plan it out, not having to make decisions. Like
Sure.
she
Yeah.
just wants she wants me to be aware enough to know what she'd really like.
Okay.
I'd be like, hey babe, let's go get in camo and go hunt deer. That's not her
That's
thing.
not Laura.
That's
Yeah.
your thing. That's fine. It's not her thing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But if it's like, hey, I bought tickets for the musical 6 last January. We went to it during the squall,
Okay. I
the
don't know what that
winter
is.
squall. Remember, like everyone was like freaking out. Don't drive. They call
Oh
it a
yes.
squall.
Yeah. The winter
that was
squall.
the day that we went.
Good job.
That was fun driving.
I'm sure.
But I didn't tell her. I just said, hey, we got a date. And I got the whole thing planned. And we went to see the musical 6, which, as a side note, as a man, that is a musical about hating men.
Oh really?
It's the 6 wives of Henry VIII.
Oh okay. All right.
Oh yeah, it's a good. I mean, I like musicals. It was fun, but I felt like my life was in danger being there.
How many other men were dragged to it?
We all
But
had
you
this
didn't get
look.
dragged
We all
to-
had this like
you
look.
went willingly. You
I
bought these
went
tickets.
there willingly because I love my wife.
Your wife, yes. How many other men were there because they love their wives?
I don't know, but all of us looked at each other, kind of like we were.
There was that acknowledgement.
Yeah,
where you just
like, do
make
you know
eye
where the fire
contact.
exit is in case they are like, we don't need you. You're like Henry VIII. No. Like, I'm not divorcing. I'm not beheading. I'm not making my own church. Like, I'm not Henry VIII. Don't project his issues onto me. I'm just Dave.
How many of them? I'm just Dave. How many of them smuggled in their hip flask?
We're like meeting in the bathroom.
Yeah.
Give me a swig of that.
just a little nip to get me through the rest of this.
No, she loved it. So
Good. Yeah. So 20% effort.
On
I do
everything.
have one project that turned out like that, but I don't know that I was in analysis paralysis, but it did take me a while to get started. The chicken coop that I built, I just pieced it together
Okay.
with a bunch of like old wood that I did end up spending probably $100 on lumber and like siding.
does
and
your wife care what the chicken coop looks like?
does she care what it looks like? No, she cares that it functions.
Okay. Our chicken coop, my wife was like, it needs to be beautiful.
Okay.
And chicken coop's beautiful.
Ours is on the side of the house where no one can see it. So,
yeah.
yeah.
Difference of like
If it was like,
priorities.
if we had like an open yard where people could just like peer into the back, I'm sure she would care. But, you know, she was just like, we need a bigger coop and we need it to be more sturdy than the one we picked up.
Oh, any of those off the shelf, like
Yeah.
buy from the stores, they're all pieces of crap.
Yeah.
I can build my own piece of crap. Thank you very much.
Oh, I built a pretty good piece of crap.
Yeah.
It's actually a sturdy piece of crap. It's quite heavy.
Mine, I had to get like 4 or 5 people to come
Like-
pick up because so we went and got chickens. No joke. It was like right around Valentine's Day 2020. This is right before
You
all
got
madness
chickens?
breaks out.
Wait, you got chickens?
We got chickens right before COVID started here in the U.S.
Spring chickens?
It
they hatch
was
that early?
February. We got the chickens at Cal
Cal
Ranch or whatever.
They hatched that early? When did
They
they?
had them that early.
Okay.
I remember this because it was either late February, early March, but it was because COVID started. Things went like
mid-March.
nuts.
It was like mid-March.
Like the first week of March.
Yeah.
It was the week of the earthquake in Utah. That week,
I was
my
gone.
company sent me home
I was
and
not
said, "Hey, for the next couple weeks, work from home." And then the earthquake happened that week, and I remember we had the chickens at this point.
Okay.
And I was thinking how nice it was to have the chickens since the world was falling apart. At least we'd have a couple eggs.
Yeah, yeah.
So we get the chickens, and they're just like little dinosaurs
Sure.
in the basement.
Yeah.
They have their heat lamp, and she's like, "We need to build something." So I had to draw something up. I had it
Of
all
course,
designed. I
and had
couldn't.
plans.
We got chickens. I got to build them a house. So we built this in the carport in front of our house.
Okay. Yeah.
And Sarah down the road works for the city
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
in permitting.
And just she asked you if you had a permit for the chicken.
So she walks by, and I'm building a chicken coop in my garage. And she's like, "Hey, did you get a permit for this?" No, she's joking,
Was she
right? Because
serious at all?
she's on personal time now. She's not gonna sit here and like walk the neighborhood like the HOA president.
Thank you,
And
Sarah,
I
for
said,
not doing that.
"Look, Sarah, how many eggs a week are we talking to make this problem go away? I don't want to get a permit." And she's like, Dave, it's $10 and it lasts forever. It's time fee of like $10, Dave. You just have to like chicken scratch, no pun intended, a little design showing that you're being humane, that the number, you can have like 6 chickens
yeah.
based off of like your property or whatever, right? And so we're talking, and you hear this.
She's asking you if you have a permit and you already have them.
And the chickens are in this house. We're like finishing the outside. It's functional, like we have a tarp
it was
over the
in
roof.
your carport at this point?
It's in my carport. There's chickens living in
That's
it now.
awesome.
And she goes, "You can't have chickens in your front yard." So not only do I not have a permit, I'm actively building a chicken coop
in the front, in the
with
carport with chickens in it. So how did you move this to the back?
I asked, the men in the neighborhood. I was like, "Hey,
Yeah,
can
just, hey, let's
got a
pick it up."
couple strong men," and we just picked it up and moved it back there.
Okay.
And
So I was about to run into that issue.
it's heavy. So it was solid wood. I mean, like, and she wanted it beautiful, so it has like nice.
Yeah, I don't think mine's quite as sturdy as yours, but
I don't know.
as I started building it on our backyard patio, we've got our side yard is fenced in, and I start putting it together. I think I had a couple of legs. Anyway, Sheena's like, "How are you gonna get that in there?"
Oh, wait, because
Because
you
it was
built
bigger
it,
than-
and it's like, can it get through these openings?
Yeah, it would not have. So I had like 3 sides put together, kind of,
It might have.
and so I ended up like having to like rotate it through the.
Here's the thing. My perception is that you can fit anything through an opening. When moving, if you sing the Tetris song while trying to rotate your couch.
That's the requirement.
Yeah. You're like, however, one time this did not work because we tried to get a couch upstairs in the old house, and we literally got stuck. And Laura really wanted this couch up there, and I'm like, maybe if we just take this corner off. Like, I'll peel back the fabric, we'll cut some of the wood.
No,
I've
wait.
taken a couch apart and rebuilt it in a room with recliners and everything. So this is not something I'm unfamiliar with.
Okay.
It was Russia.
That
That explains everything.
explains it all.
And I'm like, I could do this. And next thing I know, I have like my hacksaw. I'm like cutting stuff, and it just became like a surgery where the infection was much deeper than you realized. Next thing you know, I'm just cutting this thing to pieces. We're throwing it away. The couch did not survive.
Was this a new to you couch, or were you just
No.
moving it from
No,
one
no,
room
no,
to
no.
another?
She was like,
I've used that. It's my birthday and Christmas. It'll be fine. Not true.
yeah, not true.
I always
Especially
end up
it's
asking
a
for
whole
something
year
else.
later. Who remembers? But
they do.
The couch in our front room, which wasn't
yeah.
isn't really a good size for the front room, but at the old house it was like a better fit where
Yeah.
we had it. Super comfortable. Very nice. Very expensive.
Very expensive. um, I've never bought an expensive couch. These chairs that we're on, that one we got
Five.
from the neighbors down the road. This one I think we got from DI.
Here are the things. Do you believe that your kids are capable of taking care of nice things?
No.
Then wait until your kids are gone and you've changed the locks so that you can choose when they come.
Good plan.
Actually, I
like this
had
plan.
so these chairs, like we had a swivel one of these.
Uh-huh.
My daughter loved it. Came from DI.
Yeah.
DI's like a Goodwill, so
It's a thrift shop.
And I don't particularly sit softly on furniture.
You plop down on them.
Do you plop also? Are you a plopper?
I'm not a plopper.
Yeah, I'm a plopper. And
Dave's
I
a
got the
plopper.
mass to make it meaningful. I didn't realize how much I plopped until we floated a couch in our house, and it's on wood, the laminate. So when I sit down, I can like move the couch back an inch or two. And over a week,
Because you plop.
I'm a plopper. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but I'm a
There's
plopper.
anything wrong with that.
I plop, you don't plop, that's fine. We
Yeah,
can
it's
still be friends.
okay. To each their own.
My friend came over, kids are in bed. Friend came over to visit, and it's late. It's like 10 o'clock at night, and I just plopped on this couch. And I was like, ow. That hurt.
Did you break something?
I thought maybe I sat on a Lego. Legos are brutal. Legos
wait.
during the daytime are safe, but in the middle of the night, Legos are really painful.
So did you hit the frame of the couch? You hit the
No,
wood?
I stood up. No joke. Metal bar sticking out of the chair like this many inches. It was like some piece of metal that had just like, and then just snapped. And it
Wait,
stabbed me in my butt.
like the cheek or
Let me just say, a couple inches over, and it'd be like a hot dog campfire.
oh my gosh.
So I am eternally grateful for the placement of this spike. And I'm like, I'm going to go to the bathroom because I just got stabbed by my chair. And my friend's laughing because how often does this happen that your chair stabs you? And I go in the bathroom, I look at it, and I'm like, okay, it was like 1/8 of an inch, but it
Oof.
was long.
Still, that hurts.
Like this, that really hurt.
Was
When's
it
the last time I got a tetanus shot?
Oh, no.
What happens if you don't? If like, what are the risks of this?
TMJ, right?
It's like lockjaw.
Yeah, lockjaw.
I
TMJ.
don't think you eat. I don't know all the ramifications of it, but I'm like, it's just not worth it. I asked my friend to watch the kids. I went to the hospital. Every single time I go to the hospital, and it's something embarrassing, invariably, that's when the hot nurse is on shift, who's like, "Here, let me clean out your butt, the
Take
hole in
care
your
of
butt,
this.
the other butthole, and
No,
sew you up."
The non-natural hole in the butt.
Yeah, the alternate butthole. And yeah, so that was fun. Are you ready?
I think I'm ready.
Okay, for those of you who can visually see, this is a foxtail
Those
that
of you that
Dave.
can visually see,
Yeah,
as opposed to those that
Sorry.
can audibly see.
if any of you are blind listeners,
Dave's holding a foxtail.
I'm holding a foxtail. For those of you that are on Spotify or YouTube, you can see
You
this
see
foxtail.
the-
It's about 14 inches long. So we
Yeah,
moved to Russia.
I think
My
that's an
brother.
overestimate, but
What? That's 14 inches.
no,
We're
that's at least
fact-checking
24
that.
inches.
24 inches? Listen, your wife's not here. You
Like
don't
6
need
inches,
to.
right? That's 6 inches.
Okay. Anyway, this is 14 inches. We're
14
going to check
inches.
that after the
24.
cameras stop. Anyway, so my brother, who my kids affectionately
This
refer
is
to as
Uncle Slacker,
right?
Yeah.
He goes to Izmailisky Park, which is
What?
Izmailisky Park. It's a bazaar.
Mylisky.
Izmailisky Park.
Park.
That's just the name of the place.
Okay.
Anyway, so people have like booths set up, and there's people selling
It's
dolls
like a flea
and
market.
guns and
Guns?
Dude, they sell all sorts of crazy
You get a
stuff.
Mosin.
This is where I traded in the Bowie knife.
Yeah. You
and
get a Mosin Nagant at this place.
I don't remember what I got. Anyway, he finds a foxtail, and he's like, "Huh? Now, 9-year-old kid in Texas, do they sell foxtails at Walmart? At
in
the
Texas?
local? No, like you don't find these things in American stores.
Not in the stores.
No, you don't go to Target and buy foxtails.
I'm sure you could find a foxtail.
You can find a foxtail because you obviously found one, but this isn't just something that you would see at like a Target or a Walmart.
Right. You got to go somewhere.
More exotic,
Yes.
like Russia,
Like
Moscow,
Russia.
1992.
Russia, 1982. You can buy a foxtail too.
Yeah, we have so many foxtails. Poor Americans, no foxtail.
No foxtail.
So he buys this. I'm like, I don't know what he's going to do with it. He starts walking around shoved in his pants. Not
Wait,
like
What? Shoving
he
it in-
shoved it like in his pants,
like
just
in
like a couple
the
inches
front pocket or
in the waistband,
in the front or the back.
in the front.
So
And
he's
it
not
just hung out.
he's not even wearing the tail like a tail.
It's not wearing a tail like a furry. I don't think he was a furry. He just liked the foxtail
and so
it's
he
a
shoved
very
it
weird
in his
fashion
waistband
statement.
and let it hang out
and just let it hang out. Not in the middle.
at least 24
Not
inches.
like a loincloth. Just off to the side. Like here. On his hip.
Okay.
Okay, me and my siblings, being the good siblings we are, we ruthlessly
Sure.
pick on him.
Of course.
Being who he is, he doesn't change.
He just leaves
He's
it.
not bending to social
Doesn't care.
pressure.
Yeah, good for you, Uncle Slacker. Stick with your guns. Stick to your guns.
So one day, he gets out of the bathroom and he walks by me and the foxtail drops on the ground. He doesn't notice it. Now, he guarded this foxtail. He did not want anybody else touching it. This was his foxtail. He's very protective of it.
Yeah, he's 9.
9. Yeah, I'm 11. Instinctively, I kick the foxtail underneath the bookcase before he notices because I know.
Wait, how did it fall onto the ground?
He was just walking out of the bathroom and I guess he didn't tuck it in all the way.
He had it with, like
He took
was-
it in the bathroom with him.
This was at home.
Yeah.
He's at home. He took the foxtail into the bathroom with him.
Goes to the bathroom, does
Goes
his
to the
business.
bathroom, does his business, and drops it on the way out. And you kick it under the shelf.
Yeah, I'm sitting there at the computer. I see it, and I'm like, oh, I didn't even think about it. I kick it underneath the bookshelf. I immediately go to my older sister, and I'm like, guess what? I have. She's like, what? I go,
The foxtail.
I have the fox.
I've acquired.
Yeah. This is, oh, like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do with this?
poor your poor younger brother.
We didn't have a lot of entertainment options. It probably was winter. The
Winter in
sunset,
Russia.
the sunset
Okay,
at
all right.
noon.
Yeah,
It's more like 3 p.m.
2 hours of daylight.
Yeah, 2 hours of daylight. Anyway, so I tell my sister this, and so we come up with a plan. We're gonna put this foxtail in with the hamster cage, in the cage.
Oh no!
We just think it'd be funny. So 2 minutes later, he's walking around. Where's my foxtail?
I've got a hamster story to show.
Oh, you got a
by the
hamster
way.
story? Okay,
Yeah.
we'll break up the foxtail stories with the hamster one.
Okay.
So my brother's like, "Where'd my foxtail go?" I go, "That's crazy. When did you last see it?" Well, it was in the bathroom. I go, "Did you see it after the bathroom?" He's like, "No." I said, "You could have flushed it down the toilet."
Not convince him that he flushed it.
So
down
I'm
the
like
toilet.
gaslighting him,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, man.
Now he's very upset. He's convinced that he put it down the toilet and he flushed it. He goes into the bedroom to probably cry.
Yeah, I'm sure.
He's very sad about this.
Yep.
There's the hamster. He sees the foxtail in the hamster cage. freaks out. And you can understand this kid's like a germaphobe. He was eating food with Ziploc bags on his hands.
Oh my gosh.
So
What?
we probably shouldn't. He was probably a protected
Just
class. We probably shouldn't.
Preying on this poor kid.
It was like a disability. We're picking on poor Uncle Slacker.
Uncle Slacker. Have you been diagnosed with OCD?
No, but he probably should have been. Anyway,
So he's freaking out
he
about
freaks
the
out.
foxtail.
He takes it out and he immediately washes it.
He washes the foxtail.
And then he throws it in the dryer.
No.
Now, I know nothing about furs. But what happens when you throw a foxtail in the dryer is it breaks apart into
Yeah.
many pieces.
Yeah.
It just falls apart. So now this series of events have led to the death of the foxtail. He puts it in a jar and says, "Foxtail killed by Buffy the hamster," as like a memorial to this foxtail.
How long did he have that?
I don't know. So we go to Izmailski Park again,
To try to find another one?
and he buys another foxtail.
Oh, man.
We're thinking maybe he grew out of this. No, dude needs another foxtail. So every
Same
summer
year,
we would
still
go back
9
to the United
He's
States.
still 9 years old at this point? Or
He's like 9, 10. He's like 10, let's
Okay,
say.
so it's been
Time
about
has
a year.
passed.
Oh,
He's
all
10
right.
years old. We go back to visit some family and friends in the United States.
Okay.
And he brings the foxtail with him.
Yeah, why not?
I spent most of my childhood protecting this kid because he just looked like he wanted to be punched in the face. Like, no joke. I had fist fights defending him because he was my brother, and I'm like, please don't beat my brother
Guys
up.
are like, look at him.
I'm like, look at, he's handicapped. He's not handicapped. He's just was born after my dad had radiation treatment. Some people give them superpowers. Another one, it makes them like foxtails.
So he brings this foxtail with him.
He brings the foxtail to Texas.
Totally
This is
fine.
the least accepting country in the United States for foxtail wearing boys. It's 1994.
Did he-
Like, what's wrong with you, boy?
Did he
Why are you
still
wearing
have it hanging out of the waistband?
hanging out of his waistband? Right.
Comes to Texas.
We're staying with a family friend. She's blind.
Perfect. So
The
she's
real
okay.
blind, not the one I was
The-
talking
yeah.
about earlier.
A visually blind, not
Visually
audio.
real blind person.
Those that can visually
Yeah,
see.
so she has
was
a
not
seeing,
one of them.
She has a seeing eye dog.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh no. Wait.
Oh, yes. So he leaves the foxtail for some reason, goes somewhere. My mom comes home. My brother's gone still.
Okay.
The dog found the foxtail and
Oh, no.
ripped it to shreds.
So second foxtail done.
Second foxtail's dead. The blind lady, she feels horrible about this. She's like, what am I going to tell him? And my mother says the truth. You say, Jacob, I saw nothing.
No, she did not.
Which is
say
the
that.
line she used.
No, she didn't. Did she really?
Oh, yeah.
That is awesome. That's the best. I think that's the best line that you could say as a blind person.
I saw nothing. I mean, you might as well use it, right?
Yeah, it's the truth.
I saw nothing, right?
I saw nothing.
So,
So
9
wait,
years ago.
he gets a third one at some point.
Oh, yeah.
Oh man.
9 years ago, Laura and I are garage. You know, it's Saturday.
Garage
Somebody had
sailing.
like a garage sale.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's a foxtail for sale.
Did you buy him the foxtail?
Oh, I bought him a foxtail.
Did you present him with said foxtail?
Yes.
When?
We have a Christmas party.
Family
where
Christmas party.
Family Christmas party.
Okay.
And they reenact
The nativity?
The nativity.
Okay.
And they have animal outfits. I was at Shopko, and they had the unicorn outfit that was made popular, like the Fortnite unicorn outfit.
I'm not. I don't know if I'm familiar with that.
Fortnite. It's like a very
I know.
colorful like unicorn, but it's like a giant onesie.
Okay.
Now, Uncle Slacker, not a small dude. I got the biggest one I could, and my daughter sewed it on
On the
The
back of the
tail.
unicorn.
to make the unicoon.
The
As we
unicorn.
called it. So we show up. I give it to him for Christmas. He puts it on, and he filled this thing. Very form fitting. and zips it up, and then he's one of the animals in the nativity now, the unicorn.
Oh my gosh. What was his reaction to the foxtail?
Oh, he thought it was hilarious.
Okay.
Because the way I did the bag was sitting there, and there was a foxtail like hanging
Hanging out
out.
the back.
And so he sees the foxtail, and he's like, "Oh my gosh!" And then he pulls and just keeps coming.
With
The rest of
the
this
unicorn.
outfit, right? I don't know what he does with it now. I'm afraid to ask. I'm afraid it might have entered into like the bedroom.
Sure. Well, why not?
I don't want to know. Anyway, those are the three foxtail
Three
stories.
foxtails. Uncle Slacker's foxtails.
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay, hamster story.
Hamster story. So, I preface this by asking a question, Dave. Did you know that hamsters hibernate?
For real, unlike bears. Bears don't hibernate in the way that we think.
Like, for
They don't
real.
go to sleep. Do they go to sleep? Sleep like they're just sleeping the whole time?
like sleep?
Because bears don't sleep when they hibernate.
They don't sleep. They just stay in the cave.
I think so. We'll have to fact
No,
check.
they
that one.
like sleep. And I don't know if it's like full the whole winter, but
Okay, but there's a ton of different types of hamsters. Is this all hamsters?
I don't know if it's all hamsters.
Oh wait, I know where this is going, and this is horrible. Continue. I'm not dead yet.
So when it gets cold, hamsters hibernate.
Yeah, to conserve their body energy and stuff. You know, it's normal.
Yeah. Is this something that you were aware of
Uh,
before now?
maybe, but as I've mentioned, I'm getting older. I don't
I-
remember everything.
I was not aware.
This doesn't sound too unfamiliar to me, so it's not like something I probably have never heard, but it didn't make a big enough impression for me to remember it forever.
Oh, I will remember this fact forever.
Oh, I can only imagine why. Why would that be, Dave?
Well, you see, years ago, our two older kids had some extra cash, and they both wanted a hamster. And I said, okay. So we got them hamsters, two of them. And they were named Brownie and Cupcake. Brownie was brown, Cupcake was like whitish. So, Brownie, Cupcake.
For those of you not watching, Dave just pointed at himself and said brownie, and pointed at me and said cupcake.
For those of you that can visually see.
Yeah, these are not nicknames that we're fully
No,
adopting.
they're not.
But
Those
maybe
were the
we will make
hamsters' names.
t-shirts.
Those were the hamsters' names. And at some point, Brownie becomes unresponsive. It's cold. Winter's coming on. Brownie's unresponsive. We're like, okay. The older kid's freaking out. Hamster's dead. She's cold. I said, okay, she's cold. We'll bury her. So Brownie gets buried in the backyard. And a year later, Cupcake becomes unresponsive.
The hamsters don't live forever.
No, they don't. But
So, I
they
mean,
do
like,
live a long
hamsters
time.
dying after a
They
short
do
period of
live a
time.
long time,
Oh, how long?
like 30 years.
No.
They can live. Fact check me on that. But I think they can live
Okay.
like 30 years.
Next episode, we'll have the truth on this.
Truth on the hamsters. Cupcake becomes unresponsive as it gets cold. But it was so cold the ground is frozen.
Okay.
And so we're like, we can't bury her now.
Just too much work.
Yeah, it's just going to be, I don't have the time to bury Cupcake.
You could have boiled some water and just
So-
dumped it on the ground and dug a hole.
Well, where were you when this happened, Dave?
Engineers with their thermodynamic solutions.
Jeez. So let's preserve the body from decaying and decomposing. Put it in a plastic
with
bag
your
and stick it in
wedding
the freezer.
cake slice for your 10-year or your 1 year. Just throw it in the freezer with the other stuff.
That's what we did.
Okay.
We put her in a plastic bag and put her in the freezer. We go to check on her to bury her, and there's a little dropping in there. Fresh drop. There was no dropping before we put her in there, and there was a dropping after.
She might not have been dead.
She might not have been dead. She was hibernating.
She could have also been dead.
Well, yeah, after we put her in the freezer.
No. I don't know if this is the same for hamsters, but for humans, when you die, your bowels empty. But
Sure.
now that I'm talking about this,
She was-
there was
Probably
she was probably
not
alive,
dead.
and you killed her and
killed her in the freezer. We froze the
and
hamster
then
to
the
death.
poop came out. You think because of the death process, or do you think she woke up enough and pooped and was like, "This is cold."
I don't know. I have no idea.
Statute
One of those
of
two.
limitations is up on this.
One of those
so.
two. So we froze the hamster to death. She was hibernating.
So you buried one alive to death,
Possibly. I don't know.
and then you
The other one
froze the other one.
The other one
Have you had any hamsters since?
No. No.
Is who's more traumatized? You or the kids?
I think I am.
You are. Do you feel immensely guilty?
Oh yeah.
At the time, did we have the Googles? You
We
think the
had the
Googles would
Googles.
have had the answers?
Yeah.
I mean, this is obviously like, hey guys, the internet's up and going. Hey,
This was
You need to put this
was
in to
only
save
like
hamsters.
two or 3 years ago.
oh yeah, this is
This
it
was-
was the information was there.
Yeah, the information was readily available. I just ignorantly didn't look for it.
So do you think subconsciously you didn't want the hamsters, and this is your way of getting
No, I
rid
think
of them?
consciously I didn't want the hamsters,
Consciously, it wasn't even subconscious.
but I did not intentionally kill the hamsters.
You are forgiven, Dave.
Oh, thank you. Thanks
For whatever that is worth, I forgive you. Other people might not. The hamsters sure as heck don't.
No, yeah, I'm a hamster murderer in the worst way.
You ever played the game Day of the Tentacle? Not Dave the Tentacle.
Not Dave the Tentacle.
Day of the Tentacle.
Dave of the Tentacle.
No,
Day.
Day. Day
Day,
of the
not-
Tentacle.
Not Dave.
It's an old Lucas Arts point and click adventure game. It's
Oh,
a sequel
no.
to Maniac Mansion.
I don't know.
It's a
what that
great
one
game.
is either.
There's a scene in it with a hamster, and you're trying to get the hamster to the future, and you have
Okay.
somebody 200 years in the past, somebody 200 years in the future, and somebody in the present day, and you're trying to get the hamster from present day to the future, and so
How do you what?
it's it's a weird sci-fi. There's,
Yeah, how
there's
do you
a
do
talking
this?
tentacles in this game.
Talking
okay?
tentacles.
Anyway, so you're trying to get this hamster to the future, 200 years in the future. So the guy in the present, to solve this problem, he throws him in a freezer,
It doesn't work. I know from experience.
and 200 years later, now that you put him in the present in the freezer,
Yeah.
you go to the character in the future, and you open up the freezer, and there's the hamster. Because the freezer's still there, it's still running. It's
Sure.
a video game,
After
right?
200 years, yep.
And now you have this hamster that's frozen, but there's a microwave.
So you try to reanimate it in the microwave? No.
So you heat it up in the microwave, but now the hamster's cold and wet. He's alive though, and you have to
It doesn't
get a
work.
sweater for him, and to make him warm.
game?
And so there's a sweater from the future that you get that's like a real big fat guy's sweater from the past, and
Okay.
you throw it into a dryer,
to shrink it.
and then you put in like a ton of quarters that you stole from a vending machine
What?
that you use like a
What is-
crowbar.
This is so bizarre.
It's such a fun game. Anyway, so you do this and you just pop it in, and so then you walk into the laundry room, and 200 years later it's like ding, and you open it up, and it's just this tiny little sweater.
But you have
from
to do
the
this in the
past.
past.
And so you put it on the hamster, and it's like, okay, I'm good now.
And this
I've been frozen, nuked. You put a sweater on me, now I'll work in the future. Not true.
it doesn't work.
My sisters, we did have a hamster, and we had 2 gerbils, and they were like, do you think the gerbils and the hamsters would get along?
Oh no, that's a bad idea.
Is it?
I think that's a bad idea because hamsters.
Oh,
don't
I
get
know
along.
the answer to this.
Hamsters don't even get along.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, hamster dads will like eat their young.
Yeah.
They're like, oh man, that's weird. You little like snack size hamster, I'll just eat it.
Yeah.
That's kind of weird. But
Gerbils are bigger than hamsters.
gerbils are bigger than hamsters. I don't know. The hamster was like a teddy bear hamster, so maybe he had like
Okay.
a lot of fluff. But so we drop him in.
Bad idea.
I did not do this. I think I did tell them this was a bad idea, but maybe I'm misremembering. I know it's a bad idea now. So they
Hindsight's
lower the
20/20.
teddy bear hamster in. He's fluffy and white, and there's 2 what in my memory now, brown little gerbils that are like ninjas.
Oh my gosh.
He's very slow.
Jeez.
They start attacking. They don't even sniff butts. They just go at it.
Yeah.
My sister's trying to reach her hand in there. They're
Bad
getting attacked
idea.
by the gerbils
Oh
who
my
are trying to
gosh.
kill this teddy bear hamster. They finally get him out. Everybody's okay.
Okay, so the hamster survived?
He didn't die immediately from his wounds. I don't know what happened after that. I just remember them screaming and dipping their hand in there and like getting attacked while trying to like work through the pain to get the that he's biting, they're attacking, but it's like this one big like kung fu panda, slow moving little cute teddy bear hamster being attacked by these little ninja gerbils, with my sister's hands getting
Would not have stood a
sent through the
chance.
blender.
Yep, not a chance.
Not a chance.
Okay, here's some takeaways, folks.
It's a podcast about things that you didn't need to know.
Things that you didn't need to know, and maybe you didn't want to know about hamsters and gerbils, hibernation,
Politics.
and politics. We need to get some submissions, some anonymous submissions from you folks.
We need some feedback. We know people are watching. We know people are listening. You know who we are. We'd love to hear
Send
from
us-
you what you want to hear.
Yeah, what do you want us to talk about?
Yeah.
Or if you want to send us a message on the Facebooks or the Instagrams with an anonymous story that you want us to read.
I will even take submissions on MySpace. I'm not picky.
You don't have you still have MySpace?
Does MySpace even exist?
I don't know if it does.
I don't think it does.
Fact check us on MySpace.
I
Does
think it's
MySpace still
something
exist?
different if they still do MySpace. I don't think it's
It's not
the
what it used to
same
be.
service as it was.
Yeah, MySpace was very interesting. Let's talk about next time.
Yeah, we'll talk about something fun next time. We'll have a good time.
Let's talk about social media and how that's impacted us. Because I have at least one good story that came out of social media.
I have some stories that involve scantily clad women
Oh,
and social media, but I think everybody has those stories.
yeah.
Let's just say being named Dave Matthews has its benefits.
Stay tuned, folks, for the next episode of the Daves of Our Lives, where Dave Matthews joins us.
Yeah, it was awkward.
Okay.
And this has been fun.
Yeah.
See you guys in 2 weeks.